D&D Beyond has recently opened itself up to selling some third-party content, and something that's newly available is a popular and great little book from, it's not little actually, a great huge book from Kobold Press called Tome of Beasts.
Yes.
And Tome is an accurate name. It has over 400 monsters and same amount of pages, over 400. It is themed a lot around horror, or at least scaring the players or playing on kind of primordial fears.
Yeah, absolutely.
The idea is to confront the players with monsters they won't be familiar with, because hopefully they haven't read this book. A lot of players kind of know what's in the monster manual. Not as many, but probably still a lot of players know what's in Monsters of the Multiverse now. You throw this stuff at them. It's not a beholder. It's not an orc. The hell is this thing coming at me? A weird drunken leprechaun, which we'll start off with.
They have a ton of flavor that comes along with it. There's a couple like good 4, 5, 6 paragraphs in some of them that have the flavor of what this character is, instead of just being like, here's a stat block.
You see that a lot with these third-party monster books, I think. I'm thinking, of course, in no small measure, Flea Mortals by Matt Colville, who we talk about a lot on this channel.
Yep.
That seems like, I hate to say, I'm not trying to knock Wizards, although I guess I've been doing a good job lately, but third parties seem to do better with that particular thing. Flavor and mechanics are just like, they go right together. Yeah, lore is a better word for it.
They had to build, I feel like they have to build the lore, or at least they feel they have to.
Yeah,
for these characters.
They're working harder for your love
monsters.
because they're not a Wizards product, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's so much established lore in D&D already.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. What we want to do here is highlight a few monsters that we thought were cool and interesting, just to give you a taste of what's in the book. And we will begin with that drunk leprechaun.
Yeah, it's the Cluracan. Not the leprechaun, the Cluracan.
That's right. Don't get confused. You might make the Cluracan mad, and you'll find out why you don't want to do that. So here's the intro for the Cluracan from the book. Around a corner in the wine cellar stumbles a surly 2-foot-tall man carrying an open bottle of wine. So far, this could be me.
Yeah,
except it would be beer.
Or me.
Although I am taller than 2 feet.
Yeah.
He has a bushy beard and wears a rumpled red overcoat over a dirty white shirt and knee-length red trousers with blue stockings and silver buckled shoes. A cap made from leaves stitched together with gold thread slouches atop his head, and he reeks of stale beer and wine.
So Cluracans are basically leprechauns who gave up being leprechauns and are just now drunkards in a cellar of a winery. And I thought that was pretty hilarious. So this is actually one of the 3 monsters that's not really playing on your fears so much as I just really thought it was funny.
Yeah, it's a tiny chaotic fae.
Yeah.
It's cantankerous, angry, and it wants booze. This is fun. It only uses material components for the spells that it can cast. And that material component is always alcohol. Yes.
The way the players can get rid of the Cluracan is, well, 1, fighting it, but otherwise you could have a drinking contest with it. And that is going to be difficult.
Yes, it is. It does have a +3 constitution, which makes sense.
Yep.
A fun little detail is that they tell you that its armor class is the combination of its dex and its charisma, which they call the Cluracan's luck. That's fun. It has 2 attacks in melee. One of them is, obviously, it's going to punch you. And the other one is improvised weapon, which I imagine much of the time is a wine bottle.
Right. Smashing the bottle.
And brandishing it in your face.
The bar shiv.
All right. I see one little risk here. It would be possible to way overdo the Irish accent on this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you might think, what's the big deal? That's not that insensitive. I don't know, man. I know Irish people, and they hate that. They hate that. I'm not saying I'm going to cancel you, but like you might get a player punching you in the face then too. I'm not saying that Irish people like to fight when I say that, though. I do have a little Irish blood, so I'm allowed to make some of these jokes, I think. I have to check with like the Irish council.
The actual
I'm not really
Irish,
sure. Yeah.
The Cluracan could be beneficial for a little while for a tavern owner because it will fight and kick the crap out of any would-be thieves in the cellar.
That's right.
As long as you pay it in booze.
That's right. Here's a little spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. I'm thinking about using this in Curse of Strahd because wine is a big subplot in that game. There's a winery that's overrun, and the player characters have the opportunity to rescue it and all of these things. And, you know, what if they find this guy down there? The winery, the owner of the winery, his son is in one of the villages there and owns a tavern. So when you said tavern, it made me think, wouldn't it be hilarious if the PCs stumble across this Cluricon while they're rescuing the winery and the tavern owner thinks, oh, they're valuable. And so, once in a while when you go back to that village, which is Vallaki, maybe you visit the Cluricon, have a drink with him.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
You have to pretend not to know this already since you're playing in this game.
Yeah, I know.
This I also thought was really funny. The Cluricons hate other Cluricons. So that might be a fun opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could see them fighting over which one was going to protect a tavern and thus be in alcohol all the time because that's really important to them.
2-foot Cluricon, leprechaun looking guys.
Yeah.
Outside a tavern fighting over who gets to have the cellar.
It can cast several spells at will. It has a list of them. Another thing that I thought was funny is that the book mentions that if you're under the Cluricon spell, it feels like feeling drunk, complete with having a hangover the next day.
Yeah.
Fun monster. I'm going to use it. And like a lot of the monsters in this book, it's just got so much flavor and color.
The one thing to note about the Cluricon here is it's a quarter challenge rating.
Right.
So
still seems pretty deadly.
Yeah.
All these monsters are, by the way. Next, we'll talk about the Death Butterfly Swarm. Maybe the coolest thing that I saw in the book.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty sweet.
They go by swarm rules, but they're large and huge. They're two different versions, large and huge. So they cover more than one square.
Right.
And any square they cover, that's their reach. So whatever's threatened is whatever's in those squares.
Right. Whatever is enveloped within the swarm.
Right. I mean, most of the time your PCs are size medium, so they're going to be in one square. So, you get PCs clumped together and throw this swarm at them, especially the huge one. That'd be crazy. Here's the introduction for the Death Butterfly Swarm. These enormous clouds of orange and green butterflies add a reek of putrefaction to the air, stirred by the flapping of their delicate wings. Why do they have a reek of putrefaction? They like to feed on the undead and on fiends and demons.
Yes. This is a little bit of a life or a fantasy imitating life.
Yeah, but the difference is they look like cute little butterflies. I think this is fun because you confront player characters with this, oh, look at these nice little butterflies that most people associate with harmlessness and pretty things. You don't expect them to be carrion eaters, probably.
Right. Actually, though, there are a few butterflies that feed on carrion in real life.
Google that at home, if you will. We would not lie to you.
Dave would.
I might. Regardless, I'm sure that's probably true, but I don't think that most PCs will know that, or most players will know that.
No, it was a thing I had to think a little harder about.
Yeah. Not only do they devour the undead, but they're going to try to devour your PCs as well. They can poison you. They dish out a lot of damage.
Yeah.
That poison is not only potent, it can also affect the corporeal undead, who are normally immune to poison.
Yeah, that was a kind of crazy one I didn't expect to see. So
I like that they can blind the characters. The fact that they're swarming around with
there's so many
wings.
butterflies in your face that they're blinded.
You have to make a save to see if you're blinded by them.
Yeah.
And then if you're not, you still might have disadvantage on attacks because if they poison you and you fail your con save, now you got to deal with that. Yeah. Their bite attack affects every creature in the space they occupy. And again, you have your choice between size large or size huge. Right. It's going to be more than one. They're kind of their own they carry their own area of effect. It's them.
Right.
But that seems really powerful to me. One attack action can hit everybody in that area.
Yeah, they have different challenge ratings for these, though.
Yeah.
So the large is the Death Swarm. Then there's the huge Death Swarm that comes with it. So it depends on what one you're using to how many you're going to hit.
Sure.
So, I mean, you could have a 4 square swarm and you only get like one character. That's probably the tank that was out front with fighting the undead when this swarm appeared.
Ooh, so this is giving me a great idea, which would be some butterfly keeper, dastardly person who cultivates these things.
Right.
So you're not facing them alone. What I'm getting at is you could have people tying up the characters in melee, try to get them bunched together, and then bring in the butterflies.
Yeah.
Actually use them like an area of effect. Right. Wonderful dastardly plans.
But the fact that they can just attack anything engulfed in the swarm with one action is scary.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's scary.
Although these swarms do a lot of damage up front, when their hit points get reduced, they do less damage. So when they get reduced below half, they have a different amount of damage that you roll.
Yeah, which
Half the dice.
totally makes sense because you're reducing the number of butterflies that are biting you.
Yeah. And that's another common thing I see in these third-party monster books is slightly crunchier mechanics than you get usually from the monsters in the Wizards books.
Yeah, it's kind of like phases of a fight. I like it.
Stuff like that. Yeah. Then there's one more monster we wanted to highlight that really captures what the introduction says the book is about, which is giving this sense of dread and horror to player character. It is almost an overtly horror-themed monster collection. Not entirely. There's other stuff in there like the Cluracan.
Right.
But the prevailing thing that ties everything together is horror, and some of the monsters really embody that. The Myling is one of them. The description says, Mylings are the souls of the unburied, those who died in the forest from abandonment or exposure and can find no peace until their bodies are properly interred. So they're revenants. Given the circumstances around their deaths, Mylings tend to be solitary. They haunt the places where they died. When some tragedy resulted in multiple deaths, the resulting Mylings stay together and hunt as a pack. The gist of it is Mylings want to be put to rest, and they want living people to do it, your player characters most likely.
Right.
They jump up on your back, try to grapple you, and beg you to take them to where they think they need to rest.
Yes.
In a grave, and they'll keep asking you to do that. And if you refuse, they will have bite attacks that hit for free if they have you grappled. And then you might be thinking, well, hey, this is kind of a noble thing. Why not let them piggyback ride to where they can be laid to rest?
Yeah.
Sure. If you do that, they will pull you into the grave with them.
Yeah.
And there's a chance you might suffocate.
Yep, absolutely.
And there are well spelled out solutions to that for the other player characters. They can try to dig you out. If you have an initial save not to be pulled down, and you have a save to see how often or for how long you can hold your breath, but failing that, then it says how long it will take the other player characters to dig you out. It is a shallow grave, though.
Yeah, I mean, they say it's about 4 minutes to dig, and divided by the number of diggers to dig the PC or NPC if you play it that way out. Because you could just easily make this thing to save whatever NPC this is latched onto.
Right.
They're almost kind of like a ghostly revenant leech.
Yeah, that's a good description. Yeah. The book describes them as they can be kind of charming at first. When they try to lure you into this plan, they can kind of hide their faces and hide their undead image a little bit, or that they do attempt to do that to try to make you think they're just these kids that are probably going to be something like, hey, mister, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, and they say that the Myling just kind of takes on the personality that they had while they were living.
Right.
So could be a super nice person or ghost at first. It could be super violent at first.
Could also be that.
And just immediately latch on and say, hey, take me here or you die.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You got a range you can play them, which is interesting. Yeah. They can put all their cards on the table and just threaten you, or they could be like, pull that whole Dickensian orphan.
Right.
Please, sir, may I have my grave?
And I think a swarm of these would be quite difficult because this is a challenge rating 2 creature for 1.
They have stealth.
Yep.
They have proficiency in stealth.
And crazy thing, I don't know if this is a normal thing for a lot of undead because I haven't looked at a lot of monsters, but they are immune to being knocked unconscious.
Oh, that's right.
So getting them off your back by just knocking them unconscious is impossible.
Ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
They're literally immune to non-lethal damage.
Yeah.
The first punch will do nothing.
Yeah.
Fun times. I got a real Village of the Damned vibe from it. I could see dropping a few of them into one game with an interesting story about how they died together. Some just wonderful, horrible, grim, Tim Burton-esque kind of situation. And you go through that village and, it's dark and you hear children calling and they come from different houses. Please help us.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's like a bunch of little tiny Tims.
Right. God bless us, everyone. Please bury me. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I like that it says when it talks about how they try to appeal to the characters and they try to act like innocent children and that, they do these things and they sing harmless nursery rhymes when they're not screeching.
Yeah.
Which implies that that's mostly what they're doing.
Yeah, they're screeching and keeping you awake if you are not immediately taking them to where they want to be.
Yeah, that's probably what that means, but
it sounds like a normal child.
He loves children.
I do.
that's probably the vibe they're going for. But the way I read it at first gave me this idea of like throwing the player characters off by having the children be charming, but just stop and say, they say a nursery rhyme, whatever. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Oh, you look
just
like nice people.
Silence and then staring and then the scream.
I'm thinking completely manic. They just switch back and forth. Like, oh, you look like really nice people. What's your name? Those are just a few examples. Again, more than 400 monsters in the book. Yes, I'm giving this a positive review because I've skimmed it and I've only read the details on some of them. I've had it a long time too, so I like that this news about D&D Beyond caused me to take a look at it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of forgot I had it and I haven't really used it much, and I really want to in games now. And the great news is that this is now on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, no, it's super cool.
So, for example, if you're using the alpha version of D&D Beyond maps, presumably this means tokens for these monsters is going to be in there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Or you can buy it and read it with your other D&D content. You should know, though, this is still available as a PDF with no DRM directly from Kobold. So you got options. But if you want it in your D&D Beyond, it's now available there.
Gotcha.
This is also, I looked into this. This is also available on Roll20. I have to decide if I want to pay for it twice to bring the stuff into Roll20 conveniently, because I don't really use the Roll20 character sheets and things. But it'd be nice to have the tokens for it.
And not only is it available digitally, you can get it in a hard copy as well, which I prefer.
Yeah, and they've got bundle pricing if you want both, which is nice.
Perfect.
Yeah, check it out if you want to. Have you used it? If so, leave us a comment down below. And we talked a little bit about challenge ratings, and in Tome of Beasts, they might seem a little low because these are intentionally deadly monsters.
Yes.
But take a look at another video on our channel that is about a new approach to figuring out challenge ratings. Kind of an interesting thing. The designer from Wizards who came up with a challenge rating system for 5th edition openly said after he left the company in the mass firings that that system is flawed, and he proposed something else. So take a look at that video, and in that video I go into detail about how he suggests you determine a more accurate challenge rating. Might help you out.